Newly appointed Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela will have to hit the ground running with several crises plaguing the sector, not least of which the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, funding and accommodation crisis, as well as the still pending finalisation of the process to appoint Sector Education and Training Authority Board Chairperson that was botched by Manamela's predecessor. President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed Manamela to the position earlier on in the week, having sacked errant former Minister Nobuhle Nkabane, whose tenure had become untenable following a series of scandals before the National Assembly. So let's unpack all of this and the broader implications for governance, skills development and public trust in our education sector. Let's speak to Professor Sethulego Matebesi from the University of the Free State. Good afternoon to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. Let's start with the changes made by President Ramaphosa, elevating a former deputy minister to the position of minister. This is not someone who's new to the system. Is that an advantage in the case of Buti Manamela, or could it mean more of the same, more prolonging of the crises that we have faced in the last few years?
Hi, good afternoon to Lasizwe and good afternoon to your viewers. Not a difficult question at all, but the question is who is or who will be able to take over from the minister that had been sacked if it is not Buti Manamela, somebody who has been in that department for quite some time, because the question that we have that do you have someone within the African National Congress who perhaps is not tainted and who can take over this ministry? Yes, there might be questions around Buti Manamela, but for me it's just perhaps a question of continuity within that particular department, and the president told that let me take somebody who will take over the baton from his predecessors and perhaps consolidate whatever is left in terms of governance, because that department has been bleeding. And by the way, we're talking in your opening remarks, we're talking about a department which is still battling just to disperse funding. What a shame in South Africa in the age of the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, and you're talking about the funding in as far as the NSFAS is concerned. Buti Manamela's one of the delegated responsibilities when he was deputy minister, my understanding is that it was in the area of sector of TVET colleges, and he was really active in that space. TVET colleges have not been spared from this crisis playing itself out at NSFAS. So in a way that works, doesn't it? That this is someone who's familiar with at least one of the sectors affected by that funding crisis.
Yes, no, most definitely. But I mean, obviously, this is not the only, functions of the such a huge, very critical department, but it's one of those, a very fundamental, and we all know what student funding can lead to. We've already seen how unstable some of our tertiary institutions has become because of a lack of funding or issues, challenges around funding, and that's, for me, I still don't understand why we haven't found a resolution, but it's all because we do have skewed priorities. But whether you now have brought in somebody new, the question would still have remained, well, will that individual had the capability or the capacity to be able to deal with this elephant in the room, and that is student funding. And as I've indicated, this is only but one of the many challenges that this ministry is facing.
Yeah, the other priority I flagged in my introduction has to do with completing the work that was botched by his predecessor, Nobuhle Nkabane, of appointing chairpersons to the boards of sector education and training authorities. He'll be performing that task under severe scrutiny, won't he? Because the various stakeholders watching how that is done are alert now to the prospect and attempts to politicize the leadership of the sitters.
Yes, most definitely. But I think this, some of the decisions that have been taken in this ministry goes beyond the department as such, and it speaks to the fiber, the political fiber, the political landscape in South Africa, to say we've become a society where we see an opportunity to line our pockets with every single little event where money is involved, taxpayers' money is involved, because you can't put it anywhere. You can't sugarcoat a situation to see, but why each time do we have to have issues of this nature? I mean, the issue of governance will have huge implications. You're now going to put in people who needs to manage these particular sectors which are critical in terms of skills development, but yet you want to populate the management structure, the governance structures of these particular institutions or forums with people that are close to you. That in itself is to compromise not only the department, but it also erodes confidence in the public sector in general. And I think this was a decision long overdue, a decision that had been taken by the president.
What's your sense, Prof, of the kind of department that Buti Manamela inherits from Nobuhle Nkabane in terms of the bureaucracy and the administrative arm? Julius Malema was making the point a few days ago that the Director General may be part of the problems plaguing the department, but also the committee in Parliament hauling some of the key leaders on the administrative arm before them and holding them accountable. So will he need to do some work in as far as the administration is concerned? Of course, within the confines of what he can and can't do administratively.
Yes, I mean, even if he had been around, I mean, he would have been privy to some of these, occurrences within processes within the department. But for me, what stands out, a primary issue that you would have to tackle is to have clear lines in terms of performance and accountability. We can't have situations where, director generals and even an HOD of that particular department can do as they please. Obviously, they have to be, accountable to someone and accountable to the minister, but also to Parliament and to South Africans. And there had to be consequence management. And I believe that he will have to rein in and show and demonstrate leadership first before he can take on others that are perhaps not, performing up to standard. Those will be some of the first things that you would have to deal with in this department.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that, Prof. And I dare add that it's not a peripheral issue, that last bit that we talked to, because you did see in Parliament members of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education expressing their unhappiness with the conduct of some officials within the bureaucracy. So it is absolutely one of those issues that should be, I imagine, on the desk of the minister as he starts his tenure. Prof, thank you for that. That's Professor Sethulego Matebesi from the University of the Free State.